Welcome to another episode of the Programmatic Digest podcast. I am your host, Ellen Parker, and I have Heather Macaulay, president of MadTech, on the podcast today. Heather, how are you doing?
Great, Ellen. Thanks so much for having me.
I am so excited. We met in person, I want to say at Architecture Lab.
Architecture Live, yes. Sitting
Mhm.
at those tables outside,
Right.
yes.
And it's been super interesting. Your encounter, like me being able to meet you in person, has put things into perspective for this interview because you're absolutely fantastic. And everybody has to talk to, but oh my God, you've talked to Heather, you have to talk to Heather. Oh, I met her. Isn't she so awesome? Like, actually, she's pretty, is pretty cool, dude. But before we get into today's conversation, we're going to talk about MadTech. We're going to talk about the secret sauce between marketing, advertising, the tools, your tech stack. I know that's the terms we throw in here on these programmatic streets very often. We don't understand what it is. But before we really talk about what it means from a programmatic landscape perspective, can you please tell us if one day you woke up when you were 8 years old and you told your parents, I'm going to work in ad tech and programmatic when I grow up? Is that the case for you?
It is not.
Okay.
I'm
Not
so happy to be
nobody,
here.
apparently.
I'm really happy to be here now, but I definitely didn't wake up at 8 thinking that. I wanted to be a history teacher, and here I
Oh,
am, right? So, yeah.
that's so cool. That's so cool. That's so cool. So talk to us about how you landed in such a, honorable and powerful position. I'd love to hear a little bit more about like how you got started, and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. To be perfectly honest, and this is it's going to be very transparent about how I got here. I was, young in my 20s, and a really interesting opportunity in the form of a job presented itself on Newbury Street in Boston. And if you're familiar with Newbury Street, it's like the Fifth Avenue of
Mm,
Boston with all the shops and whatnot.
okay.
And I interviewed and I thought, ooh, this is a really cool opportunity to work here, in the heart of everything. And I'm not exactly sure what this company does, but I want to be a part of it. And it ended up being in the mobile marketing ecosystem, a startup that later got acquired by Nokia. But it was a small company at the time. And I started off in project management and ad ops and really got to work working with clients at a very early age, answering some really tough questions on sales
Yeah.
calls, etc. But what I learned was really mobile advertising and marketing, especially at a time pre-iPhone that no one was really interested in or had the budget. And
Mhm.
so I was a student, right? And I just told you I wanted to be a teacher, but I
Yeah.
love being a student as well, very
Yeah, of
curious,
course.
asking questions.
Yeah.
And so learned as much as I could about mobile. And then the more client calls I went on and presentations, the sales team would say, hey, you go lead this call. And was really pushed into sales and joined an ad network, moved to New York, spent a lot of time on the ad network side, working with agencies and brands directly, selling them on the benefits of mobile advertising and marketing, even at a
Oh,
time that
wow.
folks were buying. Yeah. And then I went over to Pubmatic to really start my mobile or programmatic education, the world-class education over there in terms of programmatic, spent time on the publisher side, and
Mhm.
then landed at MadTech.
Wow, that is so fascinating. And so no, you did not wake up at 8 year old. Got it. I haven't met anyone yet that said yes for sure. I always knew I wanted to be in marketing, even as a pretty younger age, but that was influenced by my mom. She was a marketing director. She was a definition of power, female power, working for marketing back in the days. And but programmatic was also accidental for me. But talk to us a little bit more about MadTech, what it represents today. I mean, we are recording this early June. Cannes is right around the corner. By the time this goes live, it might be right around Cannes actually, or right after. And I feel like you and Matt Tech have had such a presence at some of those industry conferences. So like at Possible, you had a special thing going on. Tell us a little bit about what you guys did at Possible, and then answer the Matt Tech question, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a few different activations.
Right.
That's a big part of our marketing strategy, especially as a startup who wasn't well known a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
We partnered with Architecture and Imperium on a large activation, which is our after party, which we do at all the tentpole events. But then
Mhm.
something that's very special and near and dear to my heart is I host a female-oriented, it's called a blowout bar. And we
Yeah.
host tentpole events. We bring women together yes, to get their hair done, but it's really about, establishing
Networking.
local networks. It's networking, right? At the
Mhm.
end of the day, no one's pitching. We're all meeting each other, and everyone seems to linger and bring, friends. And it's really involved into a bigger event with each one. We are not having one in Cannes, but we will have one at Advertising Week. So I'm excited
Oh,
about that.
nice.
You're going to have to join us.
Yes,
So
I will definitely make my way there for sure. I think it's really cool. And you're right. If there's something I actually miss, before COVID was going to my hairstylist, who's now has her own thing, right? She has her own salon, but going to the salon where she was, and everybody was talking to each other. We're talking about some type of something, and I feel like the camaraderie of just getting your hair done and just talking with other females and just with the hairstylist is like something that's not. I mean, I love my hairstylist now, but it's just one of those things, it's like, oh, that's a great idea. That's the best way to like literally let your hair down and connect
absolutely.
with other humans like yourself.
Yes. It reminds me of when you're in college or early on
Yeah.
in your 20s and you're getting ready with other women for the
Oh,
night.
yeah.
It
That's
reminds me
such
of
a
that.
great
And then you see each
feeling.
other later and you say, I like your, hey, the hair held up. So
Yeah.
it's been fun. But MadTech, needless to say, we are not an event planning company, and we host fun events, but that's not all we are.
Yeah.
We're a product and data focused consultancy.
Mhm.
So the problem we're solving for is that this industry, especially in the programmatic side, moves so fast, and your product roadmap has to keep up with your customers' needs. So more
Mm.
expertise and resources are needed every year, especially as it relates to MarTech and AdTech,
Preach. Preach.
right? So MadTech, we act as an extension of your product development team. So we bring engineers to the table, product managers, product marketers, data scientists, chief data officers to help. You have 10 things on your roadmap and you can only get to 8. We'll bring in that team to help you get to all 10. And a lot of those projects they're very much focused on data solutions. So data readiness, making sure that your data is
Mhm.
clean in a way that you can actually activate it and monetize it. Data infrastructure, making sure you have all the infrastructure in place, the right infrastructure, vendor evaluation, tech due diligence, all of that. And data orchestration, making sure that data is flowing seamlessly across all those platforms. And at the heart of what we do, which I'm really, excited about as we continue to focus on this for the rest of the year, is MadConnect, which
Mhm.
is solving for the challenge of connectivity between platforms at scale.
Yes.
And it's an engine that really streamlines all those integrations at scale, and really fulfilling that so that your team can focus on other use cases outside of
Right.
building and managing integrations.
I like that. When you were talking, it made me think almost like as MadTech as like a super smart kitchen, right? Because like you can help with marketing, which is the recipe, and
Mhm.
then you can help with maybe advertising or that data piece, which is the ingredients, and then you need a smart oven, not just regular oven, y'all, like the smart oven,
Evan.
and that's part of the technology. It's like almost working like using MadTech as a super smart and advanced kitchen. And so for some of everything that's been happening in this industry, right? There's always a lot of moving pieces. I do not subscribe to the urgency that comes with working in technology, which is everything has to be moving so fast you don't even understand, but you got to keep running, even though you don't know where you're running to and from what or from where. And so, what would you tell somebody that's like kind of getting their feet wet into this industry? I'm gonna say maybe in their first 3 years working for AdTech. Like, what would you tell them that maybe helped you as you grew up in this industry that maybe you wish you knew before? I usually ask this question at the end of the podcast, but I feel like it's so relevant into how we're gonna talk about the landscape.
Mhm.
And I'd love to hear your perspective on at least on the career development side.
For sure. I mean, there's so much advice I wish could give my younger self, but also
Yeah,
to the sort of
my
starting
freshman
out the
self.
first 1 to 3 years, which are such important years, and we often don't think of them that way, but they really are,
Mm-mm.
because that's your time to sort of, I think, overinvest in your career where you don't have as many obligations.
Mhm.
You might not have aging parents or children
Yeah.
in the household, right? Or a husband or wife or partner or whatnot, or a pet. So it's time to really overinvest in, I think, just working and meeting new people and making those solid connections.
Mhm.
I also think that you have to be a curious student and a good student. And that's something I think I was. I'm still am to this day because to your point,
Hmm.
everything changes so fast and not being afraid to ask those
Yeah.
questions, especially early on in your career. And what I think I've found is that you can't really control if you're the smartest person in the world with the most experience, but you
Yeah.
can control your level of preparedness. And I think being
Mhm.
prepared, especially
So good.
like early on in your career, knowing that like if I go to a meeting, I'm going to be prepared to answer these questions. I'm going to be prepared to present, even if I don't think I'm going to be called on.
Yeah.
Practicing in the mirror, practicing in front of your partner, your parent, or whatever, your children, to really have that
Put
level of
them to
preparedness.
work.
It doesn't change, right? You still
Yeah.
have to be prepared for everything. And I
Mhm.
think that's something that I learned, especially when I first, forget even being my first 1 to 3 years of my career, even when I started working in a new company with a lot of people who had been in programmatic for a
Wow.
lot longer than I was and
Hmm.
being intimidated in the room, but I was always prepared. And I
Hmm.
think I would just give that advice to anyone who's starting their career. Again, be a really overinvest in your career,
Hmm.
be a great student, ask the right questions, and just be prepared.
That's such a good question. That's such a great answer to be prepared. And I feel like we don't hear it enough. It's like being prepared takes it to the next level and it also builds on your confidence too. Like you feel more confident about like, like you said, I may not be the smartest person, but at least I know my shit and I'm prepared and I'm confident about it and I know how to get the answer if not, which is a great segue in the main thing I want to talk to you about is this whole tech stack thing. So most of the listeners are on the buy side. We're
Mhm.
traders, we're ad ops, we're account executives. We have a strong sales business development following that is like listening to the podcast. They want to hear the perspective from a buyer, which I am. I was a trader for many years.
Mhm.
Um, and that's what we do in our consultancy is that we train traders and others in the industry.
Mhm.
My question to you is that maybe can you like really much simplify the importance of having a strong tech stack? Because as a trader working for ad agencies in their startup phase, mainly for me, I was very hands-on keyboard, which is what we also offer, hands-on keyboard trading. But my questions it's really to help us simplify how important each tool is and what it can represent for from an agency perspective and maybe give us like another example with the publisher or the media owner perspective because very often we get very excited about the latest tool. This is the greatest, and we need to have all the tools. And then we forget that at the end of the day, we are reaching consumers. We
Right.
are marketers to start with, right?
Yep.
And we have to remember there's a strategy, how to build onto this. So help us really understand like this whole tech stack dilemma that a lot of agencies are going through right now, or maybe other media owners.
Yeah, for sure. We work with agencies. We work with a lot of brands as well, where
Right.
agencies work with those brands. And so, a trend that we're starting to see is that the average enterprise, and this came from an interesting stat from Scott Brinker of HubSpot, the average enterprises licenses anywhere between 80 to 120 tools to bring to life their advertising and marketing stack. And that's a lot.
That's a
And
whole lot.
it's a lot.
That's a lot,
It's
lot.
a lot of tools, and that's not really changing. That's
Yeah.
pretty much stayed consistent over the years. What we're also finding is that CMOs are looking a lot more tech savvy than they have in the past. And
Yeah.
so what we're finding is that, to your point, which is a great point, a lot more evaluation of the current tech stacks. Because what we're also seeing is that a lot of these organizations are licensing a great deal of tools, but maybe using 20% of those tools. So they're not using them to their greatest
Wow.
capacity.
Hmm.
So that's a challenge. So one of the things that we do is we help organizations go in and stop thinking about like the tools and the tactics they need to use, but to take a step back and try to understand the overarching problem they're trying to solve for, and then understanding the types of tools that they might need.
Okay.
And it can take also a level of investment to sort of rip out tools and license new ones or even build them from scratch. I think a common challenge or question has been even like on the CDP side, the customer data
Oh
platform
yeah.
side, right? Do I need to buy, an off-the-shelf sort of CDP and license that? Or this notion of composability is really interesting, where I'm only taking the parts that I need at this moment in time for my organization, and then I'm able to scale from there. So
Mhm.
there's a lot more options than there used to be, where you had to kind of license all of these different tools. You
Yeah.
can also, the whole notion of composability is a trend that we'll continue to see. But to your point, we're seeing an overhaul of these art, ad tech and martech stacks that are happening today.
Mhm.
And I think another important point that we really focus on at MadTech through our MadConnect platform, and this is just a challenge that we heard again and again.
Right.
I would have conversations with chief product officers at the publisher side, agency, brand, et cetera. And one of the questions I would ask was, okay, what can I take off your product roadmap? And because these organizations are licensing so many tools for audience activation and measurement and attribution and conversion tracking and enrichment, no platform can stand alone. So you bring up the tech stack and all these different tools, but all
Absolutely.
of these platforms have to be connected and they have to communicate with each other.
Yeah.
Or, in order to fulfill all these use cases, especially with everything that's happening on the data side. 83% of organizations say that API coverage is a top priority when evaluating platforms, meaning that ability for platforms to talk to each other,
Mhm.
but only like less than 20% of these organizations actually feel that their current stack has this API support, this
Oh,
ability
wow.
for these platforms to communicate. Yeah, so it's a massive, massive gap. And it's because building that communication and those
Yeah.
integrations between platforms is really hard. And
Yeah.
so going back to what you said, you have to make sure you're licensing the right tools or building the right tools, going back to composability. But then you have to make sure that all these different platforms and tools are communicating seamlessly in a more of a bi-directional way that hasn't been easy to do in the past.
So maybe simplifying one step further for the listener and hashtag me. What do you think is maybe one second. Okay. What's one area where you think the advertiser often missed the mark on when it comes to like that tech stack, or maybe implementing with a strategy for their advertisers? And what I'm asking is that maybe give us an example, like, oh, we've literally helped our agency client, or I don't know, brand's client do this by simplifying or reconnecting these two tools, like Salesforce and I don't know, Trade Desk,
Yeah,
if that's a thing.
sure. I mean, so we see this all the time where one of our clients licenses maybe a CDP or maybe builds their own to
Mhm.
create and manage audience segments. And they say, okay, great, we have all this data here, or we have this
Uh-huh.
data within Snowflake, our cloud, but now we want to activate this audience, right? We've built these audience segments, but we
Uh-huh.
want to send these segments to the trade desk or to
Right.
Meta, right? For audience activation to find that audience,
Oh, okay.
right? So you need a connection in order to do that. It's not like data is going to move seamlessly between platforms without connections and integrations.
Mhm.
And then you want to normalize the data as well, because whereas your CDP might understand mail as MALE, your
Mhm.
destination platform might understand that as mail as M. And so
Yeah.
there has to be some sort of translation layer in the middle.
Oh,
You also
wow.
might, like once you have that data in, your DSP, you might want to pull exposure and performance data back into your CDP to
Right.
understand who saw the data, who converted, and then you can make, as a buyer, you can make decisions from there.
Yeah.
That has not been easy to do, and you have to rely on the
No.
agency to do those integrations, or the brand, or the platform you're licensing, and no one's really owning that. It's kind of
Mm-mm.
like, pass the potato type deal.
Yeah.
Um, or enrichment, same thing. You might want to enrich that data through like a TransUnion or Experian. And so think about all this data going back and forth between platforms, and it's supposed to be seamless and it's not. And so I think that goes back to, okay, we feel like we have the right platforms in place, but now they actually have to communicate with each other to bring to life all these different use cases that you want to do on the programmatic side, audience activation, measurement, conversion tracking, et cetera. We've built a solution to that, which I'm excited about, which is MadConnect. And we built it because there was no other solution in the industry that was neutral, that would support all these different ecosystems and amplify connectivity for an agency, for a brand, for a
Wow.
publisher.
Wow. It almost sounds like it's MadConnect is like a easy pipe that you can plug and play with. And it's on the it speaks one language only.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
that's exactly right.
Yeah, it
Yes.
made me think of like when you're back in the days when you were setting up, I don't know, your TV, your box TV or your DVD. You had that little booklet, and the booklet had literally the same instructions in what, 50 language. And so
Yes,
the
exactly.
booklet, yeah, like the booklet was this thick, but it was literally 2 pages of installation direction. And then you're like, yo, why are they killing so many trees? But anyway, now we have everything on YouTube. You ain't gotta you don't even have to print a booklet at this point. You just gotta
No,
send them QR code, which is good because we're evolving better, I guess.
definitely
Um,
not.
so great. So one of my last question has is you know you're known and you've been an advocate of like innovation in the industry, innovation in programmatic and obviously in MarTech. And so what's one emerging trend you most excited about? Like how do you see it transforming the industry like maybe in the next few months, the next few years? Like what gets you excited?
I think I feel like everyone's saying this, but I have to say AI because
Yeah,
I,
me
I
too.
think that
I'm really excited about it. In some extent, yeah.
I have a lot of feelings about it. I am extremely curious, I'm
Okay.
terrified, and I'm very excited. All of
Okay.
those things at
Emotions.
once.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
All of the emotions.
yeah.
And I'm seeing it transform our business in incredible ways. I'm seeing it transform our MadConnect business, our MadTech businesses, our clients
Mhm.
are always think about it. I was at GMS a couple weeks ago, and
Oh yeah.
I think it was this crazy stat that only, 6% of marketers are not using AI today.
Yeah.
And I think the joke was like, who is the 6% who's not thinking about it? I'm excited about that. And I will say that personally, it just makes me so much more productive. And so that's the
Oh, for
excitement part of it.
sure.
All right. And I'm able to focus more on strategy versus like writing emails and polishing any emails and all of that. So that's something that I'm excited about. And I think what I've seen over the years, and this
Mhm.
applies to like mobile back in the day and programmatic back in the day, is that everyone listening to this right now is at this moment in time where you can become an expert yourself. There's so much information out there. And if you are not immersing yourself in
Mhm.
understanding about agentic AI, everything that it has to offer, and not using it yourself, you're doing yourself a disservice. Like you
Mhm.
just
I
have
agree.
to. And so I'm so excited about it. Again, I am terrified as well because there's
Yeah.
so many unknowns. I think we all are, but also curious.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to learn more about it every single day and keep up with it. And I think that's an opportunity that we all have because we've never seen anything like this in any lifetime, not just ours. So let's embrace that and get excited about it and just continue to educate ourselves.
I like that. I just borrowed a book from the library. It's called The AI Edge from Jeb Blunt. It's a sales book, basically. It literally says at the beginning, it says, "This is a sales book," and whatever I'm sharing here about AI may be obsolete tomorrow, but I can guarantee that you'll learn something. I was like, okay, well, I guess you're right. So I'm reading this book. It came out maybe 22 years ago, I think. But I absolutely love that advice of you got to stay educated. And you, in reference to your introduction about wanting to be a history teacher, I like to say that the best way to learn today is to teach it back to somebody. And
Yes,
so I feel like I consider myself being late in like incorporating AI in my day-to-day, my productivity, my even my outreach or like my research. And now it's absolutely a must. It's an absolute must. And I just recently, so ChatGPT is my girl. That's who I'm testing right now. And I haven't named her yet because I feel like eventually it'll come out, it'll come to me a proper name for her to respect and honor her.
that's right.
But I have been testing her a lot. And so I tested the paid version. And then a couple months ago, I was like, okay, I've been doing the paid version for a while. I don't see any difference. And
Mm.
so this morning, so I forgot that I had canceled. I'm back on the free version. And this morning it wouldn't let me do something. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm still on the free version. This is unacceptable. This whole time I've been limiting my power and my magic. How dare I? So I instantly like, like credit card. Boom, 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 boom,
Yep,
delete,
there you
delete.
go. Yes,
And I was like, okay, all right, I see you. I didn't think it was so important to have something like a paid subscription because I've incorporated so much in my day to day that I didn't even notice how valuable it was until I downgraded it again. And then
that's
I'm like, oh, this is not working for me. No, I need all the extra avocados. Yes, I will pay extra. That's
exactly.
me.
They got you. I know. It's worth it. It really is.
It definitely is. And I know from a programmatic trader perspective, there's been this whole thing about generating content from scratch and not
Mhm.
trusting that whatever you're putting into ChatGPT or any other AI that you're using it for that matter is not trustworthy. But I'd like to just point out that you're always going to have to trust and verify, even if
Yes.
it's an agentic or just generative or whatever form of AI you're using, you're always going to have, please, to verify it. And
Yes.
I heard on somebody's podcast, dang, if I remember, I'll put in the show notes, but I can't remember whose podcast it was. Maybe it was Joe Zappa's podcast, but he was saying how the best way to use AI is to consider AI as like a fresh, like a brand new junior when giving her the prompt. And so what I've been doing is exactly that. Like my name is, here's my website, here's my LinkedIn, here are the two services I offer, training, consultancy, da da da. Help me respond to this email when without sounding like a bitch, but still authoritative because
Yes.
I don't want people to play me, things like that. Make sure you take account of this and this. Like literally, I'll write like a prompt, and then it's giving me such like insightful research or whatever it is. But I have tested updating, like uploading a playbook template that I've sent to a client of mine in the past. Like the playbook is basically, for those who don't know, is you can open it and have answers like what is programmatic media, what do we offer, but also like if you're if your brand is asking about brand safety or your advertiser is asking about brand safety, here are the top three standardized, da 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 da, things like that in the
Yes.
playbook that we've built in the past. And so I've uploaded it, and then it gave me some really weird answers. I was like, this is absolutely not true. This is absolutely not true. Like, this is a lie because double verified never did that. I don't know. I was able to read it, and I told myself, okay, well, probably this is not something I will be asking ChatGPT to at least do. Hold on one
Yeah.
second. Very, very often at least. But like what's your the favorite maybe help the listener maybe with your favorite prompt, or if you haven't tried to ask AI this yet, you should. Like something that maybe is not a popular thing to ask, but has helped Heather in her day to day.
Well, I do believe that that's why we believe in data readiness, like the garbage in, garbage out in terms of data. So what you're feeding ChatGPT, it has helped me a lot with even the MadConnect positioning and language when we go back and forth. And so I've fed ChatGPT a lot of information about our
Mm-hmm.
current offering,
Mm-hmm.
right? Going back and forth. And it's almost like we're having a conversation,
Yeah.
trying
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
refine this back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, at the most simplistic level, just, putting a prompt in and just getting information out, you got to kind of argue back and forth.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And
I
there's
like
oftentimes,
ask again.
yes,
Like a
that's
follow-up
really where,
questions.
yes, the fun starts. There's rarely a moment where it's like input something, get something back. Oh, this is perfect. It's a
Mm-hmm.
conversation. Remember that
Okay.
back and
Yeah, yeah.
forth to continue to refine what you need, right? And that output that
Mhm.
comes out of it.
No, I
Um,
love that.
it needs that human touch still in a way
Yeah,
for
yeah.
now.
No, I absolutely agree with it. I think it's definitely something that should be in your day to day if you're listening to this or watching this on YouTube. I definitely think that you can use AI to your advantage. Maybe not to generate content from scratch, okay, but maybe to
Yep.
get the juice flowing. If I want to write about optimization for in the pharma healthcare, what do you
Yes.
think I should? What is an outline, maybe, right? And then you come up with the rest. Well, something I've started doing too is that when I feel like the data is coming from elsewhere, I'll ask for the source, and it does bring up the
Yes.
source. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is where it got it. Oh, okay, no, this is not exactly what I wanted. Like, I don't want to
Yes.
steal somebody's content, or at least if I am going to grab that content, give them the proper credit. I think
Absolutely.
I think that's helped a lot. And what we've been working to in our training program is that we do as a trader, we spend a lot of time analyzing an Excel
Hmm.
report still. And I've been testing like specific prompt to, okay, if I copy paste this table, this raw data in ChatGPT, can you pull up the trends? Can you tell me this? And I've literally said, okay, this is a campaign, this is a report from a campaign with this strategy, with this KPI, with this targeting, this geo. Can you help me pull based on this audience that's targeting this? Da, da, da. Like literally, I've been testing some prompts. So if you're listening to this, maybe before the end of the year, I'll have something legit for you to use and automate your optimization.
Love that.
But I say that to say that it's a work in progress, and I know that in the paid version, I can upload quite a significant data
Mm.
source versus like in the free version, it was like too many rows. You got to reduce this in
Right.
two.
Gotta
Too many
pay.
rows.
Pay
Yeah,
to
yeah.
play.
You cut that shit out. Cut it out, please. Cut it. But Heather, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Um, I
Always
think
wonderful talking to you.
same. I think it's been so insightful. We are wishing you the best of luck. This is not the last that you'll hear from Heather. If anybody needs to get in contact with MadTech or for MadConnect or with you for anything, how can they do so?
Sure, absolutely. Just connect with me on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
It's probably the best way, and we can take
Okay.
it.
Okay, so I'll have Heather's information in the show notes and in the description of this video. Thank you again, Heather, and let's keep in touch for sure.
Absolutely, Ellen. Thank you so much for having me. Bye.